My wife chose a Tuesday to confess. I was in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, opening a beer I did not particularly want, but felt I had earned by merely surviving another day of adult life. There was pasta on the stove, garlic in the air, jazz playing low from the speaker because my wife, Nina, liked to pretend we were the kind of couple who cooked together while smiling meaningfully over wine. We were not that couple. We were the kind of couple where I cooked, she said. That smells amazing. Then sat on a stool, scrolling her phone like a medieval queen inspecting peasant updates. Except tonight, she wasn't on her phone. She was hovering. And hovering on Nina looked unnatural. Nina did not hover. But now she stood near the hallway, arms folded too tightly, eyes fixed on me in little bursts, like she was trying to work up the courage to tell me she had reversed the car into a kindergarten. "You look weird," I said. She blinked. "That's a terrible way to start a conversation." "Okay, you look weird, and now you sound offended about it, which confirms the diagnosis." "I'm serious." "So am I. It's giving pre-confession energy." That would usually get a smirk out of her. This time, nothing. She looked down, then up again. "I need to tell you something," she said. I took the pot off the heat and turned down the stove. "Is it expensive?" I asked. "What?" "Whatever you need to tell me. Is it expensive? Because your tone says emotional disaster, but your face says financial disaster. And frankly, I would like to know which one I'm being served before dinner." She stared at me. "Can you not joke for 1 minute?" "No. Humor is how I keep from reenacting a crime documentary." She closed her eyes for a second. Slow inhale. Slow exhale. A person collecting courage. "We need to sit down," she said. I almost laughed. "We are 6 feet from chairs." "Daniel." That got my attention, not because of the seriousness, but because of the name. Full name usage in a marriage is like hearing a police siren behind your own car. It does not automatically mean disaster, but it definitely means something is about to get annoying. I picked up my beer and followed her into the living room. I sat in the armchair. She sat on the couch. She clasped her hands so tightly her knuckles went pale. I watched her. "Okay," I said. "You wanted atmosphere. You have atmosphere. Speak." She swallowed. "There's something you need to hear from me." I took a sip of beer. That sentence is doing a lot of tap dancing around the point. She looked at me like I was making it hard for her. Which, to be fair, I was. If somebody is about to set your house on fire emotionally, you are allowed to remove a little comfort from the process. "I didn't want you to hear it from her," she said. That was her opening line. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I made a mistake." Not, "I need to be honest." I didn't want you to hear it from her. I stared at her for exactly 2 seconds, long enough for it to register, short enough not to feel theatrical. Then I leaned back in the chair and let out the smallest breath through my nose. "From her," I repeated. She nodded too quickly. "Yes." I took another sip of beer and set the bottle down. "Before we continue," I said, "I just want to appreciate that your first instinct here was not guilt, remorse, or decency. It was public relations. Very on brand. Please don't do that." "Don't do what?" "Make this uglier than it already is." I laughed once. A short, sharp sound. "Nina, if your opening statement is that you didn't want me hearing it from another woman, you have skipped right past ugly and set up a summer home there." Her eyes flashed. Defensive already. Amazing. "It's not like that. I'm trying to tell you the truth." "No," I said. "You're trying to control the timing." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her jaw tensed. That was something I had always found fascinating about Nina. She was beautiful, very polished, very socially fluent. But the second a conversation tilted out of her control, her face changed in these tiny ways. The softness vanished. The mask slipped just enough for you to see the person underneath calculating angles and exits. There was a time I would have missed it. There was a time I did miss it. Then there was the message. That had been 11 weeks ago. A Thursday afternoon. I remember because I was in a meeting so pointless it had actually started discussing the possibility of another meeting. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I think you deserve to know the truth about your wife. I should have ignored it. Best case, it is spam. Worst case, it is a lunatic. Instead, I looked down at my phone and felt that click again. Because 3 days before that, Nina had told me she was having dinner with Claire from work. And Claire, unfortunately for Nina, had posted a story from another restaurant that same night. A restaurant 40 minutes away. At the exact hour, Nina was supposedly splitting burrata and gossip with her. Small thing. Harmless, if you want to be generous. But I am not generous when facts start wearing cheap disguises. So I replied, "What truth?" "Your wife has been seeing my boyfriend." I did not answer right away. I let the message sit. Then another came. "If you already know, fine. If you don't, I have proof." Proof. Another beautiful word. There are few phrases in modern life more sobering than "I have proof." Across from me, Stuart was still talking. Something about quarterly alignment. I messaged back. Send one thing. What she sent was a screenshot. Nina's contact name on the screen was not subtle. It was a white heart and an N, which I have to say is almost offensively teenage for a woman in her 30s. Below that were messages. Not friendly, not ambiguous, not workplace banter that some lonely spouse could misread because their imagination had become a hostage. No. There was Nina writing, "Can't stop thinking about last night." And then, later, "He thinks I'm with Claire again. We're fine. We're fine." That was my favorite part. The confidence, the smooth, elegant stupidity of it. I remember looking at those two words while Stuart clicked to another slide and feeling a calm come over me so complete it almost worried me. Like my brain had said, "All right, there it is. The animal has left tracks. Now stop guessing and start mapping." I met the woman 2 days later. Not because I wanted solidarity, and definitely not because I was one emotional piano track away from some weird revenge friendship. I met her because she had information, and I prefer my disasters itemized. Her name was Elise. She was not what I expected. I had imagined either a wreck or a warrior, someone mascara smeared and shaking, or someone sharpened into vengeance with a trench coat and a folder. Instead, she looked like an architect who had recently developed insomnia. Pulled back hair, minimal makeup, straight posture, controlled voice, the expression of a woman trying very hard not to become irrational, simply because life had offered her an excellent reason. We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral ground, public enough that neither of us would do anything stupid. She arrived before I did, already seated, a cup untouched in front of her. When I walked up, she stood. "Daniel? Elise?" We shook hands. "Thanks for meeting me," she said. "Let's not thank each other yet. We might end this conversation hating each other for unrelated reasons." To my surprise, she smiled, briefly. "That's fair." I sat down. For a second, neither of us spoke. The air between us was not awkward exactly. Too serious for awkward. It felt more like standing in the hallway before entering a courtroom. Then Elise pulled out her phone and placed it face up on the table. "I'm going to make this simple," she said. "I found out 6 weeks ago. At first I thought it was emotional. Then I found messages. Then I found hotel receipts. Direct. Efficient. Good. I hate when people narrate betrayal like they are auditioning for tragedy. And you're sure it's my wife?" She gave me a look so dry it could preserve meat. "Yes, I'm sure. Just checking. If I'm going to have a marital collapse, I'd prefer it not be due to a mix-up." Without a word, she unlocked her phone and slid it toward me. There were screenshots, photos, dates, one blurry selfie of Nina in a hotel mirror, wearing a black dress I had seen before. She had told me she bought it for a charity dinner. Apparently the charity was this guy's ego. I scrolled in silence. Elise watched me carefully, probably waiting for anger, denial, chest beating, male theatrics. Some performance. I gave her none. "What's his name?" I asked. "Ryan." I exhaled once through my nose. Of course it is. She frowned. What does that mean? It means men named Ryan have not been good for society since 2008. That got another tiny smile out of her. Then she sobered. I'm not here to humiliate you, she said. I just thought you deserved to know. That's noble. It's honest. I looked up. No. Honest would have been your boyfriend and my wife behaving like adults with spinal cords. This is cleanup. She held my gaze, then nodded once. Fair. I appreciated that about her. No fake morality, no saint costume. She was angry, yes. Hurt, yes. But not delusional. She understood exactly what kind of room we were in. So, I said, handing the phone back. What do you want from me? Nothing. People always say that before asking for something. Her expression barely shifted. I wanted to know if you knew. You don't. Or you didn't. Now you do. That's all. I leaned back. That should have been the end of it. A clean exchange. Information received. Tragedy acknowledged. Two betrayed adults head in opposite directions to begin whatever dignified or undignified collapse awaits them. Instead, I asked, how long? She looked down at the table. As far as I can tell, about 4 months. 4 months. Long enough to build a second language, long enough to refine lies, long enough to create routines and excuses and little private jokes at your expense, while still asking whether you remembered to buy oat milk. I should say, for the record, that this was the part where many men would have exploded, pounded the table, called the wife, drove somewhere stupid, started using phrases like, after everything I've done for you, which are technically fair and somehow always sound pathetic. But I did not explode. I got interested. That may sound cold. It is cold. But there is a difference between being cold and being weak. Weak men scream because screaming feels like action. Stronger men, or at least smarter injured men, pause long enough to ask a better question. How much don't I know yet? So I looked at Elise and asked, can you send me copies? She blinked. That's your first move? No, I said. My first move was not throwing my coffee across the room. This is my second. After that, I did not become some tragic secret agent skulking behind shrubs and sunglasses. I had a job, knees that occasionally complained during stares, a mortgage. I was not about to spend my evenings hiding in bushes like a divorced raccoon. But I paid attention. And once you start paying attention, people in affairs become embarrassingly lazy. Nina began using perfume she claimed she had rediscovered. Nothing says marital stability like a fragrance relaunch. She became newly interested in Pilates on Thursday evenings, despite having historically described Pilates as expensive stretching for women who own lemon water bottles. She started placing her phone face down, the universal symbol of innocence, naturally. She grew sweeter in these small, strategic bursts, touching my shoulder in passing, asking about my day with this polished concern that did not survive follow-up questions. Overcompensating. Men miss that all the time because they want to believe tenderness means love. Sometimes tenderness is just guilt in a silk blouse. I gathered pieces, dates, odd expenses, inconsistencies. The story with Claire repeated too often. A credit card charge near a hotel on a day she had allegedly been at a team workshop. Another restaurant. Another excuse. A tone in her voice whenever she thought she had successfully moved my attention away from something. Meanwhile, Elise and I exchanged messages. Brief, efficient, mostly transactional. She sent evidence when she found it. I verified timelines where I could. Occasionally, one of us would say something so dry and bitter it tipped into comedy. Once, after she sent me a photo of Ryan's overnight bag in the back seat of his car on a Tuesday afternoon, I replied, "Amazing. He packs for adultery like a suburban consultant." She answered, "He alphabetizes his spices too. Truly a monster." That was the rhythm. Not friends, not allies in some dramatic sense. Just two people standing ankle-deep in the same sewage, politely pointing out where the current was strongest. And all through it, I waited. Not because I enjoyed it. Let me be clear. There is nothing fun about knowing your wife is lying to your face while. There is nothing glamorous about watching someone kiss you goodnight with another life still fresh in their bloodstream. But waiting has value. Waiting lets truth become undeniable. Waiting lets liars relax. Once, after she came home late on a Thursday with the kind of vague, over-explained story guilty people think sounds natural, I asked, "Everything okay?" She froze for half a second. "Yes." "Why?" "No reason. You just seem distracted lately." "Work's been a lot." Another time I asked, "Claire okay?" "You two seem to have dinner every week now." She looked up from her phone. "What?" "Nothing. Just making sure she's not spiraling. You're practically her emotional support brunette at this point." She laughed. Too quickly. "She's fine." Of course she was. Claire was thriving. Claire had no idea she was starring in my wife's fiction like a recurring side character with no lines. And then there was the Sunday morning. That one was almost funny enough to frame. Nina was in the kitchen making coffee. I came in, leaned against the counter, and said, "Hypothetically, if someone had done something stupid in a marriage, when would be the smartest time to confess?" She turned so fast she nearly dropped the spoon. I watched her recover in real time. It was like seeing a dancer catch herself before a fall. "What kind of question is that?" she asked. I said hypothetically. "Why are you asking?" I shrugged. "Podcast." There was no podcast. She narrowed her eyes. "What podcast talks about that?" "The kind where people ruin each other's lives for content." "That sounds awful." "It's huge." She stared at me another second, then turned back to the coffee. "I don't know," she said. "I guess, right away. If they actually felt guilty." Interesting answer from a woman who had already spent months building a side relationship with the sincerity of a part-time actress. "Right away," I repeated. She nodded. "Lying only makes it worse." I nearly applauded. That was the moment I knew we were done. Not emotionally. Logistically. You can forgive weakness. But once someone lies with moral confidence, once they explain honesty to you while actively deceiving you, you are no longer married to a flawed person. You are sharing square footage with a performance. So I made decisions. Practical ones. I opened a separate account and moved the portion of my money that needed moving. Not everything. I scanned documents, took copies of records. I talked a lot with a lawyer to understand what the right thing to do was. I did not tell my friends. I did not tell my brother, who would have tried to solve this with whiskey and opinions. I did not tell my mother. I kept going. I worked. I slept. I answered emails. I looked my wife in the face and observed the slow, reckless confidence of a person who thinks her lies are airtight because no one has challenged them yet. Then, 4 days ago, Elise sent me another message. "I think I'm done waiting. I may contact her directly." I had not stayed calm for 11 weeks just to let the finale get hijacked by the other side. So I called her. She answered on the second ring. "Hi," she said, voice flat. "You're going to blow it up." A pause. "I'm tired, Daniel." "I know." Another pause. Then, more quietly, "I can't keep pretending I'm okay." "When?" I asked. "I don't know. Soon." I rubbed my jaw. "Give me a little time." "For what?" "For her to do it herself." Elise actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. "You still think she will?" "No," I said, "but I'd like to see how close she comes." "And if she doesn't?" "Then you can start the mechanism." She was quiet for a moment. "You really are disturbingly calm." "No, I'm organized. Different flavor." "All right," she said. "A little time." That had been 4 days ago. And now here we were. Tuesday, 7:23, beige couch, pasta cooling in the kitchen. My wife finally discovering the value of honesty at the exact moment dishonesty had become inconvenient. She looked at me across the living room, waiting for me to ask the question she had rehearsed an answer for. Who is she? Instead, I said, "Let me guess. She's crazy." Nina frowned. What? The woman you're worried about. Let me save us both some time. She's unstable, obsessed, vindictive, and not telling the full story. Am I close? She blinked at me like I'd just said something completely out of line. That's not fair. Of course it is, I said. It's step one of the script. There's another woman, but don't worry, she's insane. Very popular genre. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. You said her like she's a problem you need to manage. That usually comes with a personality diagnosis 5 minutes later. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Defensive now. Good. That meant we were getting closer to the truth instead of whatever carefully packaged version she had prepared. Can you just let me talk? She said. I am letting you talk. I'm just not giving you a clean runway. This isn't a joke, Daniel. I'm aware. That's why I'm paying attention. She exhaled sharply, then leaned forward, elbows on her knees. There's someone who might contact you, she said, and I need you to hear this from me first. I nodded slowly. Okay, continue. A few months ago, I made a mistake. Internally, I almost smiled. A mistake. Spilling coffee is a mistake. Sending an email without an attachment is a mistake. 4 months of lying is a lifestyle. Define a mistake, I said. She shot me a look. Do I really have to spell it out? Yes, I'm a big fan of clarity, especially in situations involving betrayal. She flinched at that word. I got involved with someone, she said. And? I asked. And it shouldn't have happened. That part I assumed. I just took another sip of my beer. Is there more? I said. Or are we doing the minimalist version tonight? Her brows pulled together. What's wrong with you? Nothing. I just prefer full sentences over summaries. She shook her head, frustrated. It didn't mean anything, she said quickly. It was a stupid decision, and I ended it. I nodded. Of course you did. I did. I believe you ended something, I said. I'm just curious which part. Her eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means people in your position love the phrase, I ended it, because it sounds clean, like a chapter closed. I'm just wondering if you ended the behavior, the feelings, or just the risk of getting caught. Her patience was thinning. I could see it in the way her fingers tapped against her arm now. The performance was cracking. The calm, remorseful tone she had rehearsed was colliding with the reality that I wasn't playing my role. Why are you being like this? She asked. I'm trying to be honest with you. And I'm trying to understand what exactly you're being honest about, I said. Timing matters. She stared at me for a second. What is that supposed to mean? It means, I said calmly, you didn't wake up this morning suddenly overwhelmed with guilt. Her face changed. Subtle, but there. You don't know that. I do, I said. Because if guilt was the driver, this conversation would have happened months ago. She looked down, then back up again, searching for a way to regain control. You don't understand the situation, she said finally. Then please, I said, educate me. I'm very curious about the situation where you cheat for months, but the real problem is that someone else might talk. Her jaw tightened again. She's threatening to contact you. Ah, I said. Now we're getting somewhere. She's not stable, Nina added quickly. She's trying to ruin everything. Everything, I repeated. You mean the marriage you've been actively undermining? That's not what I... No, go on, I said. Tell me more about how she's the villain here. Her eyes flashed. You're twisting everything I say. I'm translating. She's angry, Nina said, and she doesn't know the full story. That's interesting, I said, because from where I'm sitting, she seems to know enough. She went still. What does that mean? She asked slowly. I shrugged. It means if she's reaching out, she probably has a reason. She's jealous, Nina snapped. She found out, and now she wants to drag me down with her. I tilted my head slightly. Drag you down from where? She opened her mouth, then stopped, because there was no good answer to that question. You can't claim moral high ground while standing in someone else's relationship. I'm trying to fix this, she said, softer now. That's why I'm telling you. No, I said quietly. You're trying to manage the fallout. Her eyes filled finally. I didn't want you to find out like that, she said. Like what? From a stranger, from her. I wanted you to hear it from me. You wanted to be first, I said. Yes, she said immediately. Not honest. First. That matters. Of course it matters, I said. Control always matters. She shook her head, frustrated, emotional now. Why are you making me the bad guy here? I let out a short laugh. Nina, I'm not making you anything. You handled that part yourself. I made a mistake, she insisted. I'm trying to take responsibility. Then take it, I said. Fully. Her voice rose slightly. What do you want me to say? The truth, I said. All of it. Without softening it, without rearranging it, without turning it into something that sounds like it just happened to you. She stared at me. You think this is easy for me? She asked. No, I said. I think it's inconvenient for you. That was the breaking point. Tears came now, real ones, not dramatic, not exaggerated. I didn't want to lose you, she said. I believe that, I said. I just don't think it was your top priority. She wiped at her face, trying to pull herself together. I ended it, she said quietly. I swear. It's over. How recently? She hesitated. Recently, she said. I nodded. That's not a time frame. A couple of weeks. Interesting, I said. That lines up nicely with when you realized someone else might talk. That's not why I ended it. Of course it isn't, I said. That would make this entire situation look reactive instead of remorseful. You're not even giving me a chance. I raised an eyebrow. A chance to do what? To fix this, to explain, to make it right. I looked at her for a long second. Okay, I said. Let's do that. She leaned forward slightly. Really? Sure. There was a pause. Then I met her eyes and said very calmly, Start with his name. And just like that, the room changed. Ryan, she said. She looked away for a second, wiping under one eye. It wasn't supposed to happen. That line again, I said. You two slipped on a wet floor and landed in a hotel? Daniel, how did it start? She hesitated. We met through work. Your work? He does consulting for one of our clients. Of course he does, I muttered. Nothing says romance like PowerPoint-adjacent adultery. She ignored that. It started as talking, she said. Then texting. Then you made several highly intentional bad decisions, I finished. She inhaled sharply. Why do you keep doing that? Doing what? Making me sound horrible. I stared at her. That actually took nerve. Nina, I'm not adding anything. I'm removing the ribbon. Her shoulders stiffened. It wasn't serious. That's a fascinating defense, I said. So your position is that betraying me would be worse if you'd actually liked him more? That's not what I mean. Then help me out. Because right now your main arguments are, it wasn't serious, it wasn't supposed to happen, and another woman is making your life difficult. It's not a strong legal strategy. How long? I asked. Her eyes flicked up. A few months. How many is a few? She looked at the floor. 4. And during those 4 months, I said, you looked me in the face every day and decided this was still preferable to honesty. She swallowed. I was scared. Of what? That I'd ruin everything. I laughed once. You were already ruining everything, I said. Her face hardened at that. Good. I preferred anger to tears. Anger at least tells the truth about itself. I said I'm here trying to fix it. No, I said. You're here because some other woman is approaching the witness stand. That's not fair, I pointed at her. Please stop saying that like fairness is the issue that concerns you. She stood up and took 2 steps away, then turned back, arms tight around herself. I knew this would be pointless. Then why start? Because I didn't want you humiliated. That one almost impressed me. You cheated on me for 4 months, I said. You lied, used your coworker as cover, disappeared into fake dinners, and now you're pitching yourself as my publicist. Her mouth opened, then closed. You haven't exactly been easy to reach lately either. There it was. The soft setup before the blame. Oh, beautiful, I said. I was wondering when we'd arrive at, this is partly your fault. I didn't say that. There were things missing between us, she said. Then you discuss them. You don't outsource your marriage to a consultant named Ryan. She flinched. I'm trying to be honest. And somehow every honest sentence keeps making you look more selfish. Weird how that works. She sat down again, slower this time. For a few seconds, neither of us said anything. I took a sip and set the bottle down. This conversation feels late. Her eyes narrowed. Late? What are you saying? I'm saying, I replied, that guilt didn't bring you here. Pressure did. No? Yes. Her breathing changed. Faster now. You don't know what you're talking about. That almost made me grin. I had screenshots, dates, hotel receipts, and one deeply unfortunate mirror selfie, and she still chose, don't know what you're talking about. Adorable. Then explain it better, I said. She shook her head. I came here to be honest and you're just... Then I asked, so if she never threatened to contact me, when exactly was your honesty scheduled for? That landed. She froze. No answer. I leaned forward slightly, elbows on my knees now. That's what I thought. I stood up, finally. She looked up at me with that cautious, frightened expression people get when they realize they may not control the ending. She's been threatening me. Well, yes, I said. That does tend to happen when people discover their boyfriend and someone else's wife are running a side circus. She stood again. You don't understand. She's obsessive. Maybe, or maybe she's just the only person in this entire mess besides me who's dealing with reality. She looked at me like I'd slapped her with the truth and forgot to apologize. You're taking her side? I almost admired the audacity. There are no sides here, I said. There's just information. And oddly enough, she seems more committed to that than you are. Her voice dropped. Daniel, what are you saying? I held her gaze for a second longer than necessary. I'm saying you're late. Late? To what? She asked. I exhaled slowly, like I was deciding whether to bother explaining something obvious. To this, I said, gesturing lightly between us. This whole performance? Her face went pale. I don't understand. I already heard it from her. What? She said. When? About 11 weeks ago. She told you? Nina asked. She showed me. What did she show you? She asked. Messages, I said. Dates, locations. One truly unfortunate mirror selfie I wish I could unsee. She twisted things, Nina said quickly. You don't know the full... Stop. I didn't raise my voice. She froze. Do not, I continued calmly. Try to sell me a better version of something I already have receipts for. Her shoulders dropped slightly. I gave you chances. I asked you questions, gave you openings. You lied every time, I said simply. She pressed her lips together. You talked to a lawyer, she said suddenly. That's why you're so calm, she added. No, I said. I'm calm because I'm done. So that's it? She asked. You're just done? I looked at her, at the person I'd shared years with, plans, routines, inside jokes that now felt like artifacts from a different timeline. Now, I said calmly, I finish what I started. Her expression tightened. What does that mean? It means, I said, I already moved my money. She went still. I already spoke to a lawyer. The lease ends next month, I added. I'm not renewing. You planned all this, she whispered. I shook my head slightly. No, I said. You created the situation. I just stopped being the last one to respond to it. Her eyes filled again. I picked up my keys from the table. Where are you going? She asked. Daniel, wait. I stopped at the door, not turning fully, just enough. For what? I asked. She didn't have an answer. I opened the door, and this time, I didn't look back. The funny thing about endings is how quiet they are. No music, no final speech, no moment where the world pauses and acknowledges that something important just broke. The first week was the loudest, not externally. My phone stayed mostly silent. Nina called a few times the first night, texted more the next day. Can we talk? I didn't mean for this to happen. Please don't do this like this. I didn't block her. That would have been emotional. Instead, I just didn't respond. By the second week, the messages changed. Less urgency, more strategy. We should handle this like adults. We need to talk about logistics. I'm willing to work through this. That one almost made me laugh again. Now she was willing. Timing really is everything. We met once after that. Public place, neutral tone, no drama. She looked different, not worse, just stripped of something. The confidence maybe, or the assumption that things would go her way if she just said the right words. She tried though. Carefully chosen phrases, soft voice, controlled eye contact. I never meant to hurt you. I just got lost. I noticed. I still believe we can fix this. That was when I looked at her for a long second and said, I don't. No anger, no bitterness, just fact. That was the moment she understood, not the night she confessed, not when I left, that moment. Because that's when hope actually died. After that, things moved quickly. Lawyers don't deal in emotions. They deal in structure, timelines, documents, division, almost respectful in a strange way. As for Ryan, well, apparently being part of two collapsing relationships at once isn't great for personal stability. Elise left him. From what I heard, not dramatically, no screaming, no revenge. A few weeks later, I ran into Elise once more, completely by accident. Same coffee shop, actually. She gave a small nod when she saw me. I returned it. No long conversation, no shared analysis of what had happened. Just a brief, quiet acknowledgement. Two people who had seen the same thing clearly and chose to walk away from it. Before leaving, she said one thing. You handled it well. I thought about that for a second, then said, no, I just didn't ignore it. She gave a faint smile at that. And that was enough. These days things are simple, not better, not worse, just clearer. No second guessing, no quiet suspicion sitting in the background of normal moments. No wondering if work ran late means something else. Just silence where noise used to be. And oddly enough, it's better that way. Because in the end, she thought she was confessing to save what we had. But by the time she told the truth, I had already built a life in which Nina did not exist. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.